Water usage dates back to 2000 BC, where river civilizations would use techniques, such as boiling, to purify water to drink and cook with. The process of purifying water consisted of boiling, sticking a piece of copper in the water 7 times, filtering, and finally, storage in silver jugs.
Olive oil first originated in present-day Israel around 6000 BC. However, there was evidence of the first olives being grown in Crete as far back as 2500 BC. Evidence of the first oil extraction machines were found by archaeologists in both Israel and Crete.
Pepper. Pepper is a spice that was used in India since prehistoric times. It is native to the south regions of India and grows extremely well there due to the fact that it flourishes in tropical regions. Pepper was first not only used as a spice, but also as a medicine.
Black pepper reached Palestine through trade with the Indus River Valley civilizations. Black pepper could have reached ancient Israel as early as 1000 BCE.
Salt. Salt does not have a distinct origin area, but actually appears in multiple regions. Iran and China were just a few of the first areas to use salt as a preservative for both food and humans.
Salt was the most commonly used seasoning by Israelites. It came from the Dead Sea or the Mediterranean or from mining salt deposits. Obtained salt was then transported all over Palestine. It is unclear when salt was originally introduced to Palestine, but evidence shows that Israelites knew of salt as early as 4000 BCE. Salt could have been first introduced to Israel through trade with Iran or could have been discovered by Israelites themselves in a later time.
Beef. The first cows were domesticated in the Fertile Crescent and the Indus River Valley. With new agricultural societies, people were now able to raise animals such as cattle and use them as a food source.
Palestine, modern-day Israel, had domesticated cattle just like their neighbors within the Fertile Crescent. Although domesticated animals such as sheep and goats were preferred by Israelites, cattle was used for sacrifices and for the meals of kings, such as King David and King Solomon.
Onions. There is no clear history of the origination of onions. However, some sources state that they were first grown in Central Asia, while others state that Iran and West Pakistan are the homelands to the onions. Wild onions were thought to be eaten by humans even before the first agricultural society.
Onions could have come to Palestine through trade with Egypt. Evidence indicates that onions were cultivated in Egypt as early as 3000 BCE, or they could have began to cultivate wild onions that were already used by Israelites.
Flour. Wheat was first cultivated or harvested in the Fertile Crescent during the Neolithic Revolution. Because of its high yield and ease of growth, it quickly became a staple food in the areas surrounding the Fertile Crescent, and slowly assimilated itself into the diets of other regions.
Wheat was cultivated and harvested in the Fertile Crescent, and so the knowledge of cultivating wheat quickly spread to Israel, where it became a staple crop.
Okay, so we're going to make the dough right now, and it's really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to combine roughly like 2.5 to 3 cups of flour with about a cup of water.
And then we have to mix the dough and get it to the right consistency. So it's kind of, I guess, balancing out the flour and the water to make a dough consistency. And one story behind meat pies, this is actually my grandma's recipe, who moved from Czechoslovakia to Israel, where she was taught by her husband's mother how to make meat pies. And one of her favorite stories that she always tells us is when her stepfather came in the room one day after being in Tel Aviv all day. He came back to kind of the suburbs, I guess what you could consider it. And he goes, BT, which is what in Israeli they call my daughter. So he was calling her my daughter because he never knew his stepdaughter's names. And no, daughter-in-law. And so he said, BT, make me some food. So she went in and she made the meat pies that his wife always makes for him. And he goes, Sarah, my wife was here. You couldn't have made these. They're too good. And she goes, no, I made the meat pies. And so that's kind of the famous story in our family, that my grandma really learned how to pick up the family recipe, and she's a great cook. So that's how this recipe has been passed down through many generations.
And the flour and the water sometimes it can get a little too sticky, so you just need to watch and occasionally add more water. So right now, can you? Yep. And you do it in slow increments. And you want to get it to a consistency where it's not too sticky, but it's not kind of like Play-Doh. That's what you want it to be. There's another myth to it, and Jessica is going to come over here and tell you about the myth of meat pies.
It started with a king who was very bored, King David of Israel, all that fun stuff. And he was just really bored with his food. It's not good. He was just extremely bored and he wanted something special, something original. So he gathered all the chefs around Israel and he said to them, make me something original. Say the rhyme. And it goes, I can't remember. Something in the form of a sweet that is also bread but also has meat. It's great, it's great. So he said that to all the chefs. So all the chefs were like, dude, that's great. And he had all the chefs gather into his grand hall and it was kind of a contest. The best chef who would make the best food, whatever it was gonna be, would become the new chef and then he'd be really happy. So this one guy says, I'm gonna make a pie, and he gets really excited. So he makes a really good pie and he works really hard and he's waiting in the really long line of of chefs to give the king his food. And some other guy, he made a pie also, and the king didn't like the pie, so he was banished from the land. It really sucks. So this guy's like, oh my god, my pie, what am I gonna do? Because there wasn't meat in it. So he goes to the back area and he finds a cow and he slaughters it, and he takes the cow meat and he puts it in the pie and he serves it to the king, and the king's like, dude, that's great. And then they became best friends. No, the chef became the chef.
Thank you, Jessica.
So okay. This is what the finished dough is supposed to look like, and as you can see, it's not sticking to my hands if I work through it, and it has like a good consistency. So yeah, it's lovely. Okay. Okay, so I'm putting some more flour.
And then we're gonna put flour in the dough.
And on the rolling pin to prevent everything from sticking, because you know, that'd be gross. So. Here you go, Vassie. You roll that dough out.
Okay, so now you're gonna roll the dough.
Has to be about a 1/4 inch thick.
So now we're gonna cut circles in the dough for the actual meat pies. So.
Sure, like this.
I can do it.
Yeah, like that. Exactly. Okay.
And once you have the circles, what you have to do is you pull it out a little bit to make it a little bit thinner and able to hold a little bit more meat. And then it will look like this. And yeah, you are able to now fill all of these with meat as we go through.
Okay, so we're going to turn on the heat, and this is where we're going to cook the meat. So first we're going to add this is about 7 to 8 tablespoons of olive oil, and we need this much because, I mean, look at this ginormous pan. It's really big. So we're just gonna put the olive oil all over the pan, and we're going to put it, this is about 1 large onion that's all diced up. We're just gonna put it in here, all of it. And we're going to saute the onions until they're about golden brown.
So you have to fold the meat pies a certain way. So you take one of the circles of dough, and then you take some of the meat and the onions, and you don't need very much meat. They tried to make a lot of meat pies with very little meat, and that was kind of the goal, because you could eat 5 or 6 of these easily. So then the way you fold it is generally you put one thumb to hold it in, and you make sure it's all there, and you pinch the end, and then you grab and pinch to make it kind of like a braid, I guess it will look like. And then you keep pinching across. And you have to pinch it kind of hard because it's just flour and dough, water. to make the dough, so it's not very stable, I guess, and then it's gonna look something like that.
To finally fry our little beauties, and then find the olive oil. I'm gonna take some olive oil and place it in the pan, just about a tablespoon, just enough to coat the entire pan.
And that's how you make meat pies. You guys don't laugh, you ruined it.
Washed our hands.
This one's when we wash our hands.
Can we please like say that we wash our hands? Because like I think it's pretty important that we wash our
Yeah,
hands.
we wash.
I can't push. Oh. Not good at storytelling.
That's me.
Well, it looks like the dog's gonna get some.
No, don't give me a heart attack. Stop. Stop doing it again. Please, no.
We're just gonna cook some meat pies.
The beauty of making food is that the food talks to you. Like, can you hear the sizzling?
You're ridiculous. They're trying to set me on fire.
We're controlling the flame.
Well, she is.
Oh,